Welcome to the Buck Brief. David Marcus back on the hot seat for this episode. He's a writer, an author. He's like the Hemingway of Eastern West Virginia, and he joins us now. Let's start with this. Based on what we saw with Merrick Garland today on Capitol Hill, where he's getting into it with Matt Gaetz specifically on whether there's any coordination between the DOJ and any of these, specifically New York, but any of these prosecutions going on against Trump. I feel like, they keep saying that's a conspiracy theory. That doesn't sting anymore because the conspiracy theorists on a whole range of things when it comes to Democrats have been right on everything for quite a while now.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And look, I think Gates had the answer for that. Gates said, okay, give us all the correspondence you have between the Department of Justice and Fannie Willis's office, Alvin Bragg's office. This should be very simple to do. And if it's a conspiracy theory, then these documents will show that this is a conspiracy theory. And Garland won't do that, I think for obvious reasons. Look, it's not crazy to ask why Matthew Colangelo would leave being number 3 at the DOJ. Right? How many people work at the DOJ? Thousands, tens of thousands?
Overall, it's like 120,000 or something. It's huge.
Right. So he's number 3 in an organization of that size. And he says, you know what? What I really want to do is go to New York City and, prosecute beat level crime as an assistant district attorney. Nonsense. Nobody believes that. And then, he just happens to wind up on Trump's case. I mean, that strains credulity. And for Garland to say, well, I didn't have anything to do with it, it's not good enough.
If someone asks you if we know the system is being abused, but is the system truly broken, our justice system? And if the answer is yes, then what?
No, look, I think it is. And I think that what I think is so important about this lawfare that's happening in regard to what's going to happen in the election is you go back about 6 months and you look at the polling on the issues, right, that matter to Americans. Trump has a big lead on most of them: immigration, the economy, crime, foreign policy. There were 2 where Biden had a significant lead. There was abortion, and he still does. And then there was this question of who's the greater threat to democracy? 6 months ago, Biden was up 15, 20 points on that question. He's up 7 now, 6, right? That is completely narrowed. That question has become a wash. And it is like the entire basis of the Biden campaign is, oh my goodness, this guy's going to destroy democracy. If that issue is a wash now, and it looks like it is, that's a big problem for Joe Biden.
Do you think Democrats are actually worried, or do you think that they assume still that all the lawfare stuff is going to be sufficient to knock Trump out?
I mean, look, I think they're foolish if they're not worried. I don't think that what they're banking on ultimately is the lawfare. I think what Democrats are banking on is what they always bank on, which is that this election is going to come down to about 1.5 million persuadable voters in 6 states, right? Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, right? That's
Yep.
it. A very small group of people are going to decide this election. And Democrats are really, really good at targeting the voters that they need, finding out who they are. So I think that's kind of what they're banking on. But that's going to get complicated this year because usually that means run up the numbers of black voters in Philadelphia. Well, hold on a second. They might not all be on your side this time.
Do you think that's real when people point to the change in sentiment that seems to be observable, at least in the polls, about young black men who, I don't know if it's more that they just don't see any reason to vote for Biden or that they're starting to see reasons to vote for Trump? Do you think that's real in a way that it could translate on election day, or is this yet another moment where Republicans are seeing something that makes them really happy and is really encouraging, and then somehow it doesn't turn? 2022, I think, looms large for people just in terms of, wow, that wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
No, look, I think it's real. And the black vote is unique today in terms of being hegemonically Democrat in the way that it is like 85, 90% voting. That wasn't always true. That's actually a product of an urban voting base who expect constituent services. Right? There was an old joke about an Irish guy in Philly who was a Republican, right? And he was on his deathbed. And the Democrat ward leader came by to pay his respects. And the dying man said, "Well, Johnny, I'll tell you one thing. I never voted Republican." And the ward leader said, "Don't worry, Frank. You will. You will." Right? I
Mm.
mean, so all of these ethnic enclaves in urban environments tend to cling to one party because they get services from them. That was always the deal. People didn't vote for Charlie Rangel because he wasn't corrupt or he was good. They voted for him because he got stuff done in the neighborhood. That's breaking down. AOC doesn't do that. Ayanna Presley doesn't do that. That's not the kind of politicians they are. And I think when black voters walk past the Roosevelt Hotel and see illegal immigrants getting, ATM cards with thousands of dollars on them, they say, "What am I getting from you people?" So yeah,
Let's
I think it's real.
let's switch to the immigration conversation in a second. But first up, a word from our sponsor here, Porter and Company. Look, I've known Porter Stansberry for a decade. I've worked with him. We co-hosted a podcast together. This guy is a visionary when it comes to the economy, and he built a billion-dollar company from starting out in just his dorm room when he was in college in Florida. So this is a guy who's done it all, who knows about the markets and knows about how to make his readers money and how to protect their wealth, right? There's making money. There's also not losing money. He knows how to do it. So Porter has something that he wants you to know about. As a CEO of a publicly traded company, he cut his salary to $1 a year. Porter says he's not greedy. He doesn't need the money. But more importantly for you, he did this because he says he's found a much better way to save and get paid. Porter says there's essentially a new form of money in America, and it's making some people really rich. Most of the richest people in America already use it, and you can too. It's not gold or Bitcoin, but Porter says what's interesting is that while every American is legally entitled to use this secret currency, few know much about it. But now Porter's hoping to change that. It's critical to understand how America's new money works. He believes it's the most critical way to protect and grow wealth in the years to come, especially as the dollar continues to get chipped away at. Check out Porter's latest detailed presentation at secretcurrency2024.com. That's secretcurrency2024.com. All right. So Biden says he signs his executive order at the border or about the border. And it's funny because, of course, he said he couldn't do this before and tried to use that as leverage against Republicans to get them to go along with this. And some idiot Republicans even started to do so. Never underestimate, of course, Republicans' ability to just do stupid things that make everybody mad at them. But I want to start with this. Do you know that right now in your old hometown of New York City, 1 in 5 hotels are migrant shelters, including a bunch of 4-star hotels in Midtown Manhattan?
No, it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, this is obviously a city that thrives on tourism. Now it's thriving on illegal immigrant tourism. I mean, no, this makes no sense, and I know that New Yorkers are very frustrated by it, as are people in Chicago, as are people in Boston, and obviously that's why you see Joe Biden's cynical ploy today, 5 months out from an election, suddenly saying, "Oh, well, maybe there is something I can do," after 3 years of saying there's nothing I can do. Look, I think most people will see through it. The one advantage that he might get is as feckless as this plan is, it might be effective enough to avoid stuff like we saw under the bridge in Del Rio,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Like,
Oh,
you,
he's
you
going to
understand what I'm
process
saying?
them. He's going to process them faster, and it's like what I've said is if you think of this like a shoplifting problem, if you think of illegal immigration, which is illegal, like shoplifting, instead of arresting and prosecuting people that shoplift, Biden is basically saying, "Hey, we're just going to have more greeters and more checkout people." It's like, well,
Yes.
that's going to make people move in and out faster, but it's not going to stop the stealing.
Yeah, I mean, he won't even put the deodorant behind a lock and key, right? I mean, so yeah, look, I think that's exactly right. But he promised some kind of action. I think that this all goes back to the whole mess that we had in November when McCarthy was kicked out. I really believe that McCarthy's idea when he was kicked out was that he was gonna keep the government open, which is why he got kicked out. But then he was gonna negotiate some kind of a border situation with Biden. That turned into this whole huge legislation. I don't think it was ever intended to be that. I think you're absolutely right on that Republicans were foolish um, to get on board with that at all. But look, I don't think this is any big win for Biden. I don't think this turns the numbers around on the board. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm curious your take on that. If you think this,
Well, he's got to do something, or just based on what the polls are telling him, right? I mean, it's the option of just continue to right. I mean, even if you can't stop the fire from burning down your house, if you got a bucket of water, you're going to throw it on it, right? You're gonna do what you can.
Do you think he gets? Do you think he gets any credit with independents or those voters in the middle for bucking the left a little bit, right? Because you're going to see you already see like Tlaib and the regular people, they're getting upset with him. Could that actually kind of work for Biden if he's pissing off the far left?
Well, this is my I shouldn't say it so much as my theory is people keep telling me this about what's his name, Fetterman in Pennsylvania. They say don't. Because we're like, look, he's saying stuff about Israel that makes a lot of sense to me, and he said some other things about Menendez is a corrupt scumbag. I'm like, yeah, true. Like he says things that I'm like, this is good stuff. But people in Pennsylvania, friends of mine who know the scene, they're saying, no, you got to understand, he's trying to help. There's a very competitive Senate election coming up with Dave McCormick and what is it? Is it Casey? I forget the guy. Yeah, Casey, right? Casey. That he's running against.
His dad was the senator too.
Yeah, well, look at that.
And his dad was the last I grew up in Philly as a pro-life, pro-union Democrat, right? This was a thing in the world that doesn't exist anymore. And Bob Casey Sr. was the avatar of that. Those guys don't exist anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, the Fetterman thing is now people are saying, because I do like, and I've said I like some of the things Fetterman has said recently. And, if you say something that's smart, I'm not going to say it's dumb because I don't like you, right? I mean, he's saying good things. But they're saying, well, no, you understand this is political posturing so that the Democrat Party internally in Pennsylvania can have people who don't look completely insane. And I think that's a game that obviously Biden is playing here on the border, right? So he knows. I told people, because everyone says, oh, but BLM and Biden. I said, Biden's not going to get hit with BLM. Biden never has said defund police. He allows the loony left, because they're his base and they're the heart and soul of the Democrat Party, to do what he won't condemn them, but he won't go along with it. He knows that's electoral suicide.
But should we be legitimately, because I'm on the fence on this, should we be legitimately happy if the Democrats have this come to Jesus moment where it's like, oh my goodness.
No, because it's fake.
No.
It's fake. It's just, this is the guy who's promising his girlfriend, I'm not going to cheat on you, I promise. I don't want to be alone this weekend, come over. He's going to cheat on her in a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? It's just, the election is coming up, and they've decided that, they're going to play this game. They love to do this. So Democrats
I think that's
pretend to not be Democrats. You know what I mean? That's how they win the election.
They were once, but Buck, they were once, right? Before Barack Obama, they were still essentially the party of Kennedy, right? Bill Clinton was an extension of the party.
You're like a dinosaur. It's like I'm talking to a Dilophosaurus or something brought back to life. A pro-life Democrat. Yes. I mean, I know you're not Democrat anymore, but I'm saying the fact that you ever were, like, that's a rare species, my friend. They've basically gone extinct.
Yeah, but that's my point, right? I mean, so was it good for the country, for example, that the Republican Party stopped being the neoliberal Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan sort of like, I'm very smart, put me in charge, and I'll tell you what you want, and turned into the Trump version of the party, which was, I'm going to listen to you and give you what you want, right?
Yeah.
For me, that transformation of the Republican Party, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, I think that was better for the country. Is it possible that some kind of a transformation away from the party of Obama and that divisiveness could actually help the country? You seem skeptical.
Oh, I'm so skeptical. Because I love skepticism is the water in which I swim. But we'll come back to this here and close this out in a moment. But I want to talk about Tunnel to Towers Foundation for a second. Tunnel to Towers has been helping America's heroes ever since 9/11. When a first responder or military service member doesn't come home and young children are left behind, Tunnel to Towers pays the mortgage on the family home to lift the financial burden. For severely injured veterans and first responders, Tunnel to Towers builds mortgage-free smart homes, enabling severely injured heroes to move around their homes more independently. Through the Foundation's Homeless Veteran Program, Tunnel to Towers is providing housing and services to homeless veterans. More than 3,300 were helped last year alone, because all veterans who honorably serve, whether in peacetime or war, deserve our nation's gratitude. Donate $11 a month to help out, please, at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org. It's summertime, Marcus. I'm gonna give you a shot here, okay? The book that you could recommend to the people listening or watching this that you have the highest confidence, if they listen to you, they will enjoy reading it. Okay, I've laid out for you what the mission is. Don't give me the no. Any book that not one that you've written. I do have to, because obviously you've written some great books. We put that aside. Get a David Marcus book. Run up those numbers on Amazon for him. Put that aside though for a second. In addition to that, what would be your recommendation?
I really like to read Umberto Eco in the summer. I just think he's sort of, those sort of long, lingering days on the back porch. Like he's pretty perfect. So if you haven't read Name of the Rose, that's a really wonderful novel. There's also one called Prague Funeral that's like super weird, like identities change and like you have no idea what's going on. So yeah, like my recommendation would be some Umberto Eco, and there's a lot of great stuff to choose from.
Muchos gracias, David Marcus. Thank you so
He's
much.
Italian, Clay.
Well, I'm Buck, so you actually just
All right.
so whatever. Umberto, could that be Spanish? I don't know. Umberto sounds like a Spanish name to me, but whatever. You just called me Clay, though.
Got one wrong
so
there.
yeah, exactly. we just connected with haymakers at the same time. Double knockout.
Lovely.
Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for spending some time here today. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thank you, Buck.
Thanks so much.